So today on our Family Conversations, we want to talk about blood donation. And just asking you, from wherever you're watching us today, when was the last time you donated blood? You know, last year we were seeing reports in regards to a crisis here in our country, given we don't have as much reserve in our blood banks. But what has been facilitating such results? What are we doing and what are we not doing to ensure we have enough blood reserves in our blood banks? So today we're going to be talking about an initiative that is currently underway, and we'll be giving you details about that in not too long. And I have two guests with me in studio who are going to be helping us better understand this blood drive that, you know, two organizations have come together to just help champion this whole conversation around blood donation. And just to introduce it to my guests this morning, I'll start with the only gentleman with us in studio this morning. We have Kevin Mubadi, who is the National Chair of the Boda Safety Association of Kenya. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for hosting me.
Absolutely. And the other lady with me there on your screen, she is Dr. Nduko Kilonzo, who is the head of the National Blood Transfusion Service. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, and thank you for hosting me.
Karibu sana. Thank you for being with us today. And we just want to get straight into this conversation. And let me start with you, Dr. Nduko. Looking at the state of the country as we speak, looking at the results that we have against the demand and the supply and how the supply is at the moment. Just paint a picture for us.
So first, thank you very much for hosting us, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to Kenyans about blood.
Yes.
I think the first thing I'll say is start from where you started, which is last year there was the painting of a crisis around the fact that we didn't have enough blood. And there were challenges, not only in collections, because for the longest time, blood collections have relied on educational institutions.
Yes.
And then there was COVID. So that meant that our reserves obviously were going lower, and then I think there was not very good media coverage around how we were managing blood. But I think it was very clear that the Ministry of Health, the Cabinet Secretary, came out and said, look, we are going to reorganize the blood sector. We are going to figure out how we make sure that we have accountability for blood, that we get ideas of where to source blood, because at the end of the day, I think one of the most important things that we don't actually talk about enough is that blood is the one medical product that comes from human beings. We need to have human beings come out and be able to give so that somebody else's life can be saved. And so over the last sort of about 6 months, there has been a lot of work in terms of reorganizing the blood sector. This work has included, one, if we just talk about where to find blood, is saying, where else other than educational institutions that have traditionally been, I'm sure many of us when we went to school,
the first time you donated blood, it has to be a drive with school.
Yes. Was go back and say, really, there are a lot of Kenyans. Where do we find blood? And
now, allow me to just jump in at that particular point, because I like the fact that you've mentioned traditionally we have been majorly relying on institutions, and mostly educational institutions, to bring people together to be able to donate blood. And then this goes to the greater public in understanding even what is the mandate and the role of the National Blood Transfusion Service. And maybe we could start there to even help our viewers understand, when you speak to represent your organization, this is what you are supposed to know about us as an organization. Maybe you could also help our viewers understand the mandate and the functions of your organization.
Thank you very much. The National Blood Transfusion Service has the mandate to be able to collect blood, process blood, test blood, and distribute blood across the country where it is needed, when it is needed to every Kenyan. And I think it is important to recognize that for the longest time, the service has really been the primary collector of blood. And we have 6 regional centers whose job is to provide testing for blood. And the reason why blood is a nationally coordinated service is twofold. The first is that blood is a national resource, because you would want to be able to find blood when you need it, wherever you need it. For instance, if you come from a county of Kiambu and you need blood and you are in Mombasa, really you should be able to get blood where you need it, when you need it, and hence it's a national resource.
Okay.
Secondly, Kenya is a signatory to the World Health Assembly Resolution 63 of 2012 that really identifies and proposes, or not proposes, but has countries have nationally coordinated blood service, blood and blood product service. And this has been extended not only to blood, but to include other medicinal products of human origin, including tissues and human organs. And so that is one of the directions that has been provided to the department in which the National Blood Transfusion Service is, to be able to provide the policy and the guiding framework for tissues and human organs, because all those are products from human beings.
The source is the human being.
Yes, and so the role of the National Blood Transfusion Service is, one, to increase availability of blood by educating Kenyans, promoting donations, to ensure that there is accountability for blood, to ensure that it is safe. You want the blood that is given to Kenyan to have been tested for all transmissible infections and determined to be safe. And then you want to avail it to facilities, to hospitals, whether they are private hospitals or public hospitals, in a way that then it is, when it is given to a patient, it is efficacious. It works the way it should work. It has a medicinal value that it should have. And so that is the role of the National Blood Transfusion Service.
Okay.
And
yes, go on.
So coming back to the question you asked about collection and donation, over the last 6 months, we have then diversified where it is that we look for how we get Kenyans to be interested in donation. And obviously, during the Valentine's Day, we went out and told Kenyans, please show your love by giving a life. Because when you donate, you actually do give a life. And I want to just tell Kenyans that for every single unit of blood you provide, there can be up to 4 products that can be developed from that unit of blood that can be given separately to different individuals. So you don't just save one life, you save 4 lives. Last month during the World International Women's Day, we had a call out to donate blood to be able to save mothers, given that bleeding and postpartum hemorrhage is really a big issue. About 35% of maternal mortality is as a result of bleeding conditions. And then this month we have engaged the Boda Boda Safety Association, and the reason for that is a simple one. Boda Boda has a lot of young people, a lot of healthy people who we can engage with to be able to come out and donate. Secondly, I think there is also the question of the fact that we do see in facilities, because of road traffic accidents, the need for blood among Boda Boda riders.
All right, and allow me to just interject at that particular point. I like the fact that you've already mentioned, the Boda Boda sector, and we have a representative, the national chair of the Boda Boda Safety Association of Kenya. And let me just rope you in at this point, Kevin. We could start by helping our viewers understand what the Boda Boda Safety Association of Kenya is all about, because for most people, when you hear Boda Boda, you gravitate towards the not so good parts of it all. But from your sitting, what is the mandate and the functions of the association?
Thank you very much. Okay, the Boda Boda Safety Association of Kenya is a national organization that represents the Boda Boda riders across the country. For a very long time, the Boda Boda sector never had a representative, and you will find that everybody was working on his own, and there's no way we could be able to partner with the government. Whenever the government has a very important information to pass to the riders, there's no way it can reach this youth. And at the moment, we have around 1.4 million riders across the country. So this is a huge number that was out there, but it never knew where to go. They were on their own. So we decided to form a national organization that will bring them together so that you can be able to train them on road safety, security, and also their welfare. And bring them closer to the government, so that in case members of the Boda Boda sector have any challenge, any issue that they want to add to the government, it can be channeled in a proper way. And if the government also has something that they want to tell the Boda Boda youth in this country, they get a proper channel that this information can be fed to the border riders.
Okay.
So we are a national organization representing the riders across the country, and I want to appreciate the government for the support that they have been able to give us, particularly Minister of Interior, the Presidency, the Minister of Youth Affairs. They have really supported us as we grow as an organization and make sure that we have proper structures that can operate.
Now, since the establishment of the association, what changes have you seen, especially among the riders who have been able to register with you? Because just the other day we were seeing when children are reporting back to school, it is said that a huge number of them, and especially our young boys, resorted to employment, and the most available source of employment was within the border sector. Looking, oh, my sanitizer, it is sanitizing even my environment. Looking at, the benefits that have come along with the association in sense of harmonizing and formalizing the sector. What are some of those strides that you have made?
Okay, one, we had a very big number of the border riders who never had driving licenses. So as an organization, we have partnered with the government and other agencies and other members of the public to make sure that we train as many riders as possible. So when we look from 2016 up to now, we have been able to train a very huge number of riders across the country who never had licenses. I think in 2014, almost 99% of the riders never had driving licenses, but we have done so much to train. And this year we launched National Border Training Program with the Minister of Youth Affairs through NYS, which the program was going on, but the COVID-19 we had to stop a little bit. So the changes that we have been put in place is those trainings that we have been able to give them and sensitization programs on a behavior change and moral values to be part of society, and so that even the riders themselves, they can feel that they are part of this society and they can feel valued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I want to come to the genesis of this partnership that you have with the National Blood Transfusion Service, and we'd like to understand where it came from. And let me start with you, Dr. Nduku. Where did the genesis or even the background to this idea of involving the border sector, which is huge, mind you, here in our country, come from? And especially with the blood donation drive.
Thanks. I think the first thing is to say that because of the need to move away from simply education institutions
and diversify,
we took a step back and said, okay, how do we engage, how do we categorize, disaggregate populations in this country? Where do we find young people? Where do we find healthy young people? Because that's what you're looking for when you're looking for blood donation.
Yes.
And because of that, then we were able to identify various opportunities. And one of them that we identified was the border sector. And so we have had an opportunity to work with the border sector. And we then reached out to the chairman and said, is this something that might be of interest? And I have to say that it was interesting because we then were able to have an immediate meeting and start a plan of action about how do we do it, who should be involved, where are the participating facilities.
Yes.
And we have then, so we ended up with dates and recognizing that counties are different. And the National Blood Transfusion Service is very keen to ensure that we are not only working with counties, but we are promoting and supporting the counties to actually set up their own satellites, blood collection satellites, processing satellites that will be able to bring the availability of blood closer to facilities, closer to where the need is. And so one of the other items or actions that we took was engage the CECs for health across the country. And in those discussions, we started to say, how do we support the counties be able to collect blood and avail it? We will continue to provide the testing and the banking services as may be needed. And so far we have seen a lot of support from the counties. So it was very easy to be able to say, given that the Boda Boda Association has a county-based framework, and we then were able to go to all the 36 satellites are blood collection satellites across the country, and engage them, have them engage the chairman and of the counties as well as at the county level, and then plan really at a localized level, because some of these things it is going to be impossible or not very efficient to plan from the national level, and have them start to have meetings and determine which days they want to run the campaign. So last week some counties have already been running their campaigns, others are this week, and so there is this sort of ongoing engagement, because then we also would like that this is not a once-off event, but at the decentralized level we can have the Boda Boda riders begin to develop that culture of being able to donate, and then we also have our teams be able to engage them on an ongoing basis. Again, back to diversification.
So the idea is to target the Boda Boda riders themselves to be donating blood.
Yes.
On a regular basis.
Yes.
Now, let me come to you, Kevin. Looking at the fact that the Boda Boda sector cuts across the country, there's no single place you will go and you fail to see a Boda Boda or a rider. How then do you feel this whole partnership is going to be efficient in even and especially when it comes to the educational bit of the riders and them helping in filling the gap when it comes to the shortage of blood that we are seeing in the country?
Okay. I think if there is one smart person is Dr. Nduku, and she knows where to tap. And I remember when she was at National AIDS Control Council, we used to work together very closely when sensitizing riders on HIV and so on. So she's one person who knows where to tap the best. So when you look at the Boda Boda sector, it cuts across all the counties. Everywhere you step, you must say Boda Boda rider.
Yes.
And now that being that these are young people, they are youth, and as an organization, we also wanted to do something different from the community, something that we can show, something that people can see that we as a Boda Boda riders can add value. You know, for a very long time we have been quoted as the wrongdoers.
The rogue ones.
Yes, although we carry people, we support them. Whenever someone has maybe a puncture, we are the one who bring them tires. Immediately we finish with him. We immediately give him the tire and he starts the vehicle. He has forgotten about you, are a bad person. So we wanted to do something that will bring that national figure, that nationalism, that will bond us with the community, with the government. So when Dr. Nduku called me and asked me to partner in this program, I asked my chairmen across the country. We have 47 national board committee members, and they said this is a very good idea that we can easily implement. And some people that I want to appreciate are my officials. They always support me in everything that we try to do that is positive to the government and the Kenyan people. So that's where we decided to kick off. And we promise you want, maybe as you say, the Boda rider, one is bad or what, one day, one time, whenever you will go to the hospital, you will be using his blood. So you must respect that person.
Yes, and you also need to come together and just change the narrative. It takes you and I.
Yes.
Now, is this, let me come back to you, Dr. Is this only a drive that exclusively targets the Boda Boda riders, or it's also open to the rest of the public who feel they also want to be part of this particular drive?
So first, the answer is yes. It is open to the public. We need as many people. I think part of it is we need to be able to get to this place where we have a culture of donating. Actually, I've been
saying,
on a regular basis, if every Kenyan, adult Kenyan who is eligible to donate, donated blood on their birthday, just their birthday, every single Kenyan, you go to the nearest site, donate blood on your birthday, we would have enough blood. Our current need as a country is a minimum of about 500,000 units of blood a year.
Versus what is available?
For this last year, because of COVID, we certainly will be having our inventory done by the end of June, because that's when our year ends. However, we know that we are way below the target of 500,000. However, having said that, I think it is important to note that if you compare the collections in the quarter of October to December 2020, which were about 23,000 units. And you compare with the collections of January to March, which were about 63,000. That's almost
the same year of
this
2021.
Of 2021.
Okay.
That's back to back, quarter to quarter.
Okay.
That's almost a 225% increase.
Yes.
So, which means that we are seeing more people coming out. So we would want to encourage more people to come out. And I think one of the biggest issues that has been around the accountability for blood and the availability of storage and banking. What has happened in the last few months is that one, there has been significant investments in accountability. So we are moving towards a track and trace system for blood. That track and trace system, the whole idea is what people call vein to vein. We want to be able to identify every unit of blood with the blood bag as a tracker, right down to who donated it, and be able to say, to tell you, this is where this particular unit went to. The first phase of that has been to set up a very basic online-based daily reporting tool
system
that is used by all our sites. So on a day-to-day basis, we are doing stock taking. So we are able to say this is where the stocks are at. But I want you to remember that it is not stocks that are sitting, it is come and go. That's why we can only say this is what we collected in the quarter, because as we are collecting more also, we are seeing facilities and hospitals, county hospitals, private hospitals asking for more. And then the second part of it is strengthening our regional banks. And with that, renovations have already started, where we are looking at increasing storage capacity so that at any one time we are able to store the minimum amount of blood that would be required across the country. And so with those renovations, what we will be able to see is that an increased capacity, increased availability of blood and products, because the renovations are not just about the capacity to store, it's also providing equipment to be able to translate every single unit of blood into various components. So our target is actually that every single unit of blood, we should have 80% of the blood collected prepared into various components, that then when a provider asks for blood or a doctor asks for blood, they don't need to get the full blood, because most patients will not need the whole blood. Yes, they will say, we want red cells for this person, and they will get red cells available.
That is already extracted and processed, and it's ready for delivery.
Yes.
Now, this brings me to now the border part of this all, because there has to be a way that all this is going to be done. In terms of the planning that has been done so far, and maybe you can give us an example with parts of the countries that have already started the drive, what do our riders need to know when it comes to the signing up process, who to go to, where to go to, and what they need to bring with them when they are coming to the stations where the blood is going to be, where they're going to be donating blood?
You know, first of all, in our sector, we are very well structured, where in counties we have the county chairman who report directly to me, and for me, I report to the government. And in the counties, the way we have arranged, all those people who are going to donate, they are being coordinated by the county chairman.
Okay.
And in the counties, we are linking with the blood donation centers, the officials there. So there is those coordination where they have set up a point that those people are going to donate blood from. So when you come from home, I think the chairman has already spread the message from what I was reading yesterday.
Yes.
The message had already gone out there, and we have other counties that were doing it on a pilot project, like Kisii, Narok, Kisumu. They had already started donating blood, and the process was very smooth, and the guys came out to donate blood. So today is when we are starting now full one-week blood donation drive, and we are encouraging many people to come out and donate their blood to save a life. In fact, we are saying our slogan is it is our time to save life as a border riders, because we have been accused of losing lives. So
it is our time
to come out and save life.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, that also brings me to now the medical bit of it all, because for many, they also fear blood donation, majorly due to the lack of basic information that may be needed? Because from a medical standing, you might think people might know, but looking at the kawaida mwananchi, some of this information might be foreign to them. So medically speaking, for the riders who could be watching us this morning, and maybe any of our viewers who would want to be part of this donation process, they've never done it before, or they did it a while back and things may have changed. What does a blood donation process looks like?
So thank you. That's an interesting question, because one of the issues that we are having to deal with is training. So we have set up a whole unit that is going to look at, on the one hand, training for the healthcare providers, and then on the other hand, education, information. And really, I think for me, the idea of education information, we need to borrow from the private sector, because it's about marketing. It's about customer experience. When the person comes, what is it that they experience?
Yes.
It is about them feeling comfortable enough to be able to come back routinely and donate. I think you saw about 2 months ago, the cabinet secretary appointed 2 blood ambassadors. These are people who have given their lives to donate every single quarter or whenever it is that their due dates for donation are. So to answer your question, this is the process.